Yes, now we'll discuss about the cervical vertebrae. As you know, there are 7 cervical vertebrae. First, second and 7th are atypical. And third, fourth, fifth, sixth are typical cervical vertebra. First of all, we will discuss about the typical cervical vertebra, which has similar features, third to sixth vertebra. So, if you see, this vertebra is typical cervical vertebra. This is typical cervical vertebra. This is typical cervical vertebra. This is the anatomical position of the cervical vertebra. If you make diagram of this typical cervical vertebra, you will find it has body, this is body. If you see the body, the transverse diameter of the body is larger in comparison to anterior-posterior. This is anterior and this is posterior. Anterior-posteriorly, the transverse dimension is more in comparison to anterior-posterior dimension. This is typical cervical vertebra, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Here is position of the foramen transversarum. Very peculiar feature of the cervical vertebra is presence of foramen transversarum. This is foramen transversarum present only in the cervical vertebra. So this is foramen transversarum. This is body. This is vertebral canal. You can see this vertebral canal is triangular in shape. And this part, this is anterior tubercle. This is posterior tubercle. Here tubercle are present in the transverse passage. This is anterior tubercle. This is posterior tubercle. This is body, this is vertebral canal, and this is foramen transversarum. This is foramen transversarum. And here is transverse passage. In this transverse passage, terminal part is from the tubercle. So this is anterior tubercle, this is posterior tubercle. If you see this part, this is as this transverse passage is made up of 2 components, castro-transverse. It has costal part, so this part is costal part, and this part is costal part, and remaining part, this part is transverse part. So this is castro-transverse bar. This part is castro-transverse bar. So by 2 elements, the transverse process is formed. It has costal element and transverse element, castro-transverse element. So this portion is, this saddle area is costal element and this is transverse element. In between these two, here is, you can see, is foramen transversal. This is lamina. And here, you can see here, superior articular surface. or facet. This is superior articular facet. And on inferior side, you can see inferior articular facet. Here, this is body, you can see this is superior articular facet. Here. This is flat and the direction is upward and backward. You can see this is direction of this superior articular facet is upward and backward. Upward, backward and laterally. So this is superior articular facet. And inferiorly, here you can see this is inferior articular facet, inferiorly. And on lateral side you can see foramen transverse cerebrum. This is foramen transverse cerebrum on the transverse passage. And another important thing, this is spinous process. Spinous process is bifidus. You can see here is spinous process is bifidus. It is bifidus. So this is bifidus spinous process. So spine is bifidus. This is transverse process. This is superior articular facet. So this is feature of the typical cervical vertebra. Now we'll discuss about the first vertebra. First vertebra is, this is first cervical vertebra. Here. This is first cervical vertebra. This is first cervical vertebra. Typical feature is presence of, in cervical vertebra, there is presence of foramen transverse cerebrum. This is foramen transverse cerebrum. If you see, this is like a ring. This is a ring line. If you make a diagram, this is first cervical vertebra. It is also known as atlas. This is atlas. It has two masses, two lateral mass. This is this lateral mass, which are connected with each other anteriorly by anterior arch, posteriorly by posterior arch. So this is anterior arch and this is posterior arch. So by two arch, anterior arch and posterior arch, these two masses are collected. And in here you can see this is foramen transverse cerebrum. In the transverse passage, this is transverse passage, foramen transverse cerebrum is present. Here you can see another important thing, lateral mass, there is concave superior articular facet. This is concave superior articular facet. This articular facet is concave and you can see direction. This is long axis is long in comparison to transverse axis. So, and another important thing, this is concave. If you compare with inferior surface facet, the inferior facet is flat and superior facet is concave, and this through this facet it articulates with the condyle of the occipital bone, and here atlanto-occipital joint is formed. So here atlanto-occipital joint is formed. Here you can see this is condyle of the occipital bone. So it joins with this like this. This is articulation. This is atlanto-occipital joint here. Anteriorly it has, anterior arch has a tubercle. This is anterior tubercle. and posterior, this is posterior tubercle. Length of, if compare the length of arch, it is 2/5, it is 3/5. This posterior arch is larger in comparison to anterior arch. And one important thing here, in lateral muscles, here on medial side, a tubercle is present. Through this tubercle, the transverse ligament of atlas is attached. This is transverse ligament of atlas. You can see here, the transverse ligament of atlas is attached here, this part. And another important thing, this is anterior arch. In anterior arch, here you can see, this is a facet. This is facet. Here you can see this is facet. So here you can see this is facet. Through this facet, this arch articulates with odontoid process of the axis. So through this facet, it articulates with the odontoid process of the axis. So it is like this. So you can see this is odontoid process and this is articular surface. So it articulates like this. Here. It articulates here. This is odontoid process and here it articulates with the facet for odontoid process or facet for dens, and here joint is formed. And another important thing here, this is feature of the anterior arch, and in posterior arch, here a groove is present behind this articular facet. Through this groove, first cervical nerve C1 passes and vertebral artery passes through this. C1 and vertebral artery. So one artery and one nerve passes. So vertebral artery passes through this and C1 nerve. So C1 nerve and vertebral artery passes through this groove which lies behind the superior articular facet. So this is all about the first vertebra. Now we'll discuss about the second vertebra. Second vertebra is the axis vertebra. So here you can see this vertebra is axis vertebra. If you make a diagram, this is anatomical position of the axis. You can see here in foramen transversarum, which is a typical feature of the cervical vertebra. If you make a diagram, you can see here this is vertebral canal. Here you can see this is the superior surface of the axis vertebra. It has odontoid process. You can see this is odontoid process. This process is odontoid process or the dens. This is known as dens or odontoid process. Actually, this developmentally this is body of this vertebra, body of the axis. As you can see here in the axis vertebra, it is ring-like. It has no body and no spine. So body of this is attached to this. From here, it moves and it attached to this. So here no body, and this body is attached with the second vertebra. So this odontoid passage is a part of first cervical vertebra, that is atlas. This is part of atlas. This is odontoid passages are dense. And rest part is body of second vertebra. Here is foramen transversarum, and here you can see this part. This is lamina. Lamina is thick. Lamina is strong, and here is spine. Spine is bifidus. Again, here you can see it is bifidus. So spine is bifidus, and lamina is thick and strong. And here you can see this is superior articular facet. This is superior articular surface. Here you can see this is superior articular surface. This superior articular surface is, you can see, this is almost flat. This is superior articular facet. And here, apical ligament of Dens is attached here. This is apical ligament of Dens. And here, alar ligaments are present. So, alar ligaments are present here. Apical and alar ligaments are attached. Apical ligament attached with apex, and alar ligaments are present in the side. These are alar ligaments. This is vertebral canal, this is vertebral canal, this is foramen transversarum. Now, another important thing. This is second. Now, seventh cervical vertebra. Seventh cervical vertebra is vertebra prominens. This is seventh cervical vertebra. You can see this spine is prominent. So that's why it is known as vertebra prominens. This is seventh cervical vertebra. If you make a diagram of this vertebra, you will find this is body, superior articular surface of the body here, and here is so you can see this is vertebra prominens. In this vertebra you can see this process. This spinous process is prominent. This is prominent, that's why it is known as vertebra prominens. It has, this is body, this is vertebral canal, and this is foramen transversarum. This is superior articular facet. Superior articular facet. Here this is anterior tubercle. Inferiorly there is also inferior articular facet. Here you can see this is inferior articular facet. Through this vertebral canal, through this foramen transversarum, vertebral artery passes. Through this vertebral artery passes. Through this vertebral artery passes. And through this vertebral artery passes. But through this vertebral artery do not pass through this. If compare the size, its size is comparatively small in comparison to others. And through this accessory vertebral vein passes. Through this accessory vertebral vein passes. Through this accessory vertebral vein, this is the accessory vertebral vein passes. And other parts in other region, except the seventh cervical vertebra, foramen transversarum, vertebral artery passes. So this is all about the cervical vertebra. Thank you.